And welcome to Catholics Coast to Coast. Happy Independence Day weekend. I hope you've had a chance to get a lot of grilling and chilling time. I am Ace McKay, glad to be a part of it, and obviously make sure that you turn the burgers and also reapply the sunscreen before you do anything this weekend. But as you catch up on what's happening at Podcast Central, we love finding out what conversations can deepen our walk in faith with God. So to get things started, let's see how it's shaping up for this week's readings from the Mass as we look at your word on the Word.
Did you know that there's power in great weakness?
I know with great power comes great responsibility.
No, we are not talking about Spider-Man again. More like, I am weak and he is strong.
Yes, Jesus loves me.
This Sunday, we're taking a look at the second letter to the Corinthians. In it, Paul talks about the thorn in his flesh, the angel of Satan that comes to abuse him.
Paul asked him 3 times to remove this thorn. And what is the thorn?
Well, it could be a sin or an inclination to sin that Paul just couldn't overcome.
But why would God allow that?
Well, one could argue that in Paul's acknowledgement of his weakness, he opened himself up to the redeeming power of Christ.
Oh, he's becoming dependent on the mercy of Christ.
Right. Think of it this way. If I were perfect, I would have no need to go to confession. But because I am weak and sinful, just like everybody else, I must seek forgiveness in the sacrament of reconciliation. It is only through the power of Christ, acting through the priest in persona Christi, that will absolve me of my sins.
And you know what makes a good confession even better? A good examination of conscience. So that's your challenge. Tonight, take the time to do a thorough examination of conscience.
And we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Getting a chance to celebrate our freedoms in Christ and understanding this week's Mass readings, that is Word on the Word, easily defined at Podcast Central. Just go to EWTN.com/podcast or subscribe wherever you like to stream your favorite podcast so you don't miss future episodes. I am Ace McKay. As Catholics Coast to Coast continues to become family, is talking about the reality of having to live in a human body as a parent and what one's path to holiness looks like. So we're going to see a little bit of how the summer bods and virtues line up this week on Catholics Coast to Coast.
And we're back with episode 116 of To Become Family. Welcome, everyone. You ready?
I think so. I'm a little bit nervous.
Are you?
Because usually we title these episodes after we record them. Like we think about what we talked about and try to come up with something catchy.
Yes.
But you have a name already.
I do. I think. Well,
I hope I can live up to the hype that you have in your head.
I just want to talk about your body. Because it's talking to me right now.
I want to do.
I'm sorry. Well, I thought it was relevant because usually Memorial Day is when... Right, it's like stereotypically like this is summer starts.
Yeah,
right?
you can start wearing white pants.
That's not I always wear white pants year round. I don't care.
That's why everyone stares at you.
You can't tell me what to do. No, but
You did wear a white tuxedo to prom.
This week, yes, this year.
You made that was a side comment about white pants. So.
No, I had my 13th or 14th Oreo this evening. I had so much ice cream.
Gluten-free.
Yeah. I keep it real. There's just a lot of things. I don't know what'll come out of this. Like, I want to just tug on a thread and see what comes out.
What unravels?
The other end. I'm the worst. But because like even the idea of like attractiveness, and a lot of it is like after having a baby, right? Like attractiveness, both husband and wife, like, and how that affects the couples.
Okay.
Lives. Like there's just all of this. And I'm sure like, I don't know, this is stuff that people don't really talk about often. Like they might have like 1 or 2 people that they like share like a fitness goal or like I want to get to this size.
Yeah.
But like I think it's something that's very intimate within people.
Yeah. But like who do you talk to about it? And can you say those things out loud? And yeah, do you share your insecurities with your spouse or do you hope that they don't notice them?
and is it true that like if a person who's thinner has more virtue than a person who's not? Like there's things like that I think is worth putting out there.
Okay.
So tell me about your body. What did it do?
What did it do?
How many times?
Oh, yes. Well, it birthed 5 humans.
Yeah.
5 separate times. No twins.
Okay, so we'll start from here. You made a comment. Dang it! When did you make the comment? Something about I made a joke about a bathing suit, and you said I'm a mom, so I don't wear that anymore. Or something. You made a joke like that.
Yeah, I don't remember what you said exactly, but yeah, I was like, I'm a mom. I don't wear those kind of things anymore. Yeah. So one of my big phrases that I dislike, but I absolutely said to myself several
Look at
children,
us pulling on threads.
Look at us growing though too, like growing physically and emotionally. But that like for women, I always like told myself like it took 9 months to grow the baby, so it'll take 9 months to get my body back.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just a load of baloney because I had stronger words that I want to use. So, but we don't want to have the E rating on our podcast.
E for everyone. Keep going.
Because like, yeah, you grew like for women who have biological children, like your body helped to grow a whole human life within it for an extended period of time. Like reality is different now because this soul and this person, this little body exist. And so your body is going to like reflect that. I feel like there's some sort of theology of the body situation here and how your body changes because the world has changed. And like it reflects the fact that you are now a mother. And so
yeah, you have a post on our website,
on our blog,
Theology of My Postpartum Body.
Yeah.
I titled that one too.
You did. You're very clever. But I really believe that like it was, I fought it so much to like embrace that idea. And so much of it came from, I mean, like I've shared before that I had disordered eating habits and disordered body image issues and things like that. So that absolutely like flew in my face after I gained, what did I gain every pregnancy?
900 pounds.
900 pounds.
No.
Something like 50 to 60 pounds every pregnancy. Like
you were, well, let's not say your numbers. Let's say it in my head.
No.
You gained
40 to 50 pounds every pregnancy.
You at one point you weighed the same as me.
Yes.
And I was like, whoa.
Yes. So I gained a lot of weight. All right. And
sorry, backtrack a little. I thought it was cool that you weighed as much and I remember this being issues as we were young, married, and you were healthily gaining weight.
Yes.
And I thought it was so cool. At one point I was wearing, like, you had shorts. I was like, oh, these fit me.
Yep.
You were so bad.
Yep.
But like, I was so happy, like, oh, you weigh the same as me. We're twins. And you were not happy about it at all.
Like, yeah, mine is
like,
taking a lot more effort to carry around right now.
But no, it was just, I just remember being so
everything
confused.
hurts.
This could be my literalness, my ADHD, but like, I remember being like, you're supposed to gain weight. You have a baby. And like, I just remember you being so, like, you were happy that the baby was growing. You're so happy about what's happening.
I think you just imagine, like, this is the stuff, I guess this is your point, like, no one actually talks about it. But like, as a first-time mom, right, like, I get pregnant and there's a baby in my belly. And I'm like, okay, so babies are born between like 6 and 9 pounds. So what am I going to gain? Like 12? Like the baby plus the amniotic fluid. Like in my mind, I was like, that's it. Like 12 to 15 pounds is like what I'll gain. And it's all going to be belly because that's where the baby is. And you're just like, well, first of all, no one told me what a placenta was before I got pregnant. Like that was wild to me. Anyways, that could just be my own ignorance. Poor public school health education. I don't know. I didn't know placentas.
YouTube wasn't as big back then.
So that weighs weight, that has mass. But also like you gain weight everywhere. Everything grows. Your whole body grows. Your hips change shape and like position. And so does your rib cage. And like all these things changed. And it was like, whose body am I living in right now? Because I feel like I have very little control over it. And
you didn't take to jokes well. Just gotta put it out there. It wasn't just your body changing; it was your sense of humor. Went in the toilet. Suddenly, I wasn't hilarious.
Was that hard for you, honey? Was that really?
Our ankles are the same size. Didn't like that.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. And then no one tells you how much your chest size changes when you have a baby.
Augmentation?
Wow. See, I think you're funny now. Do you like it?
No. No, yeah, that changed a lot
Man.
too.
And now they've disappeared. So, joke's on you.
No.
Money not well spent.
But, and like, just to bring it back to more, because I know we're joking a lot.
What's the point of this conversation?
No, because the point of it is I think a lot happens emotionally to the mother that I think is hard to articulate as it's happening. Mm-hmm. And I think, and I think some similar to the dad, but we'll get there eventually.
Okay. So one other joke I don't recommend new dads making or pointing out is how far bellies stretch after you've given birth.
You don't like that?
Nope.
That was my way of embracing your new body.
I know, but
Look,
you really, you like pull it out and then like let go and let it like fling back and shake a little. It was, yeah.
There's so much skin.
So much extra skin.
There's just a lot.
You thought it was fascinating.
But there's a lot of that happening that I don't know if, I don't know. I don't know if, because I think my personality and my...
In all humility.
No, my brashness really pulls out. Because I it's kind of like, I wouldn't know you struggle with these things. Like, I could have asked, I guess, as a compassionate person. Or I could joke about it and then see how mad you get.
May I?
But like, I think I wonder if that's a common conversation to have. Like, I'm struggling within my body, and so we're using postpartum as like a little
starting point, I guess,
little lens to look through. But like, I think throughout relationships, like that could happen too, because I think we look at TV, we look at the movies that we watch, and like people look a certain way, and we can think like we maybe they're movie stars or TV stars, like we can't look that way, but should we look somewhere close to that? And I think there is, I don't know if there's like certain expectations one spouse may have for the other, or even a spouse could have for themselves, that you're like, why do you have that expectation? I don't have that of you. Because I kind of felt like you had a little bit of that.
That I had expectations of myself
for
or
yourself, yes.
For you. Okay.
For yourself.
Okay.
You know what you got with me. No, you had expectations for yourself, and then even post the first baby, like you had, like, I feel like, I don't remember if you were trying to work off the weight hard the first time afterwards, and then you're like, I want to get back to where I was before. Yeah. So like there's those desires instead of just,
well, you're like, I have a wardrobe full of clothes that don't fit me anymore. Like I need to hard. Oh my goodness. Yes. Buying new clothes, or like acknowledging that you need to buy new clothes, and then finding the money to buy new clothes because the old clothes don't fit. Yeah. I think it's a whole host of things like TV and movies. I would guess that even like pornography and things, because like it seeps into your idea of like intimacy, that you're like, okay, when I wear clothes it's fine, but like when I'm naked I'm worried about what you're thinking of what you see, because like things jiggle more than they do on screen, or whatever. And then like now social media and people posting on Instagram and all that stuff can distort your perception of what like a natural, healthy human body looks like. You keep shaking your head and smiling over there.
No.
I'm distracted by your...
I was going to say later, for the listeners to not think that I always interrupt when I have something funny to say. I just stay quiet, hold it to myself.
But make a whole lot of facial expressions.
I'm trying to hold it in.
Did you notice me not look at you like I turned to finish my comment?
Did you notice me look over there? So you go to look at my face. Back to like the virtue discussion, because like there is, I think, virtue in striving to have some sort of physical excellence. But I don't think it's exclusive. Like I don't think it equates to holiness.
Yep.
Which I think unfortunately we do. I think that the struggle itself is a very human struggle. This cap keeps falling. Right? It's a very human struggle.
Why does it keep falling?
I think it's a very human struggle that like, and I think the postpartum thing kind of illustrates that. Like this is a thing that like you will go through. Maybe we can argue that the TV and movies and porn, everything distorts everything. That's fine, but it's still the world that we're in. And even with social media, like there's comparisons and things. So like this is the world we're in, and we can have these distorted thoughts, but like, so what do we do about it? And I think the pendulum ends up swinging to the point that you're like, all right, so if I look a certain way, it's because I'm building up virtue by doing this, and this. And
yes.
like it's, I don't know. I just don't like that the influencers that I've seen have jumped to like your holiness, like, or like,
Yes.
I've seen the ones that like, you'll be a better mom if you work out. Like if you work out hard, like that's how much more, like
Yeah.
I can see how working out and aiming to be fit is a good tool to achieve certain things. But like for me, it is a tool to help me get to things. It's not at all a litmus test that I want to impose on all other guys. If I see that other guys struggle with similar things I struggle with, I'm like, yeah, they should implement this. But like,
because it helps to address some of those other
things
more
that will
important,
hold me back
like,
from So like for my point of view, I'll work on the post baby thing because I think that's you were talking about. But for men, and this is something Andrew Huberman talks about, is when we have a baby and we have a newborn. For men, what happens is that like your testosterone suddenly drops, you start gaining a lot of weight, and that's just, it's a reaction you have to the smell of the baby. Saying like the smell, and babies have a smell to them, and so a guy's body reacts to that, and they think biologically it's so that the guy can stay with the mate, so that the doesn't go off and have other mates, so they stay with the child, blah blah blah. But that, I know that happened to me. Like I remember, and this is sharing too much information for me, I guess, but I track my fitness and everything. So I know I was 160 when we had our firstborn, and then I got up to 185 throughout all that. And then I started losing weight again, and then we had our second and it went up again. And like, I just have always fluctuated up and down. And I treated every day like Memorial Day. So like, kind of like today, like I was so stressed by the newborn and the life and the no sleeping, this and that. So like I joked today that like I ate my feelings, but like I always ate my feelings. Like that was my coping strategy. Like I used to struggle, like early on, I used to struggle with pornography, and like that wasn't a struggle, but I still had the struggle of like, when I'm stressed, I need a pacifier. How do I pacify myself? Like, oh, there's sweets, there's things, and I would just eat like different texture foods, and like that would cause me to really not be healthy and not be able to do a lot of things, or I was very sluggish. So what I've found that works for me, that and like with that struggle also came like a poor prayer life, a poor commitment to live out my Catholic faith. Like as much as I tried to do things I couldn't do, I didn't do them well.
It's almost like it's a good indicator. Like it's a very obvious indicator of other parts of your life. Is
for
like
me.
Yeah.
For me. Like, and again, like that, I think that's specific for me. Absolutely. Like you can look through pictures of us parenting the kids through the years, and you can see where my weights have fluctuated. And like, I could be like, I know what I was going through during that time. Like I know what I was stressed with. I know what I like, whether it be a job thing, whether it be like like struggling with school, struggling within our marriage. Like I know the struggles based on how heavy I was, because like, that's just a way it, like that was a symptom of mine, was like, I would just eat a lot of food.
Yep. And exercise less.
Like I wouldn't take care of that at all. So like for me, once I really embraced like the Jocko Willink discipline equals freedom, and the David Goggins, like you gotta go. Like I embraced that, and that became a tool so that I can then be free to go do the other things.
Yes.
Right. So then like, because like I feel I'm a lot more like today, Colby and I got up at 3:45 to go do, our parish is doing the 40 hours devotion. So there's adoration of the Blessed Sacrament in the church. So we got up at 3:45 today, and Colby and I did the holy hour from 4 to 5 a.m. Now, if you had asked me at the beginning of us being parents if I could do that with my son on purpose, like no, that was way too difficult to do. But like for me, like no, I got up at 3:45. We got up, we got dressed, like it was fine. So like I wouldn't have been able to do that if it wasn't for some semblance of human virtue. And I feel like human virtue allowed me to not just fall into like whatever emotional things, like what I was doing, overeating and being lazy, and I don't know, like it was a good tool I was able to use. And I think that for people that are like me, they do need athletics, they do need fitness goals, they do need things to strive for like that are outside of a purely spiritual realm or purely like family vocational realm. Because they're tangible, but they also like they just force you to do things that you don't want to do. And I think that's why it's important for our family, because a lot of them have my personality.
Yeah.
And so
to do things that are hard has helped prepare you to do other things that are hard that like just come with life.
Yes.
So because I choose to do this, even though I don't really want to, I don't feel like it, because I get up and I do those things, it's made choosing to do hard things, like even choosing to have a disciplined, regular prayer life, right? Because you're not always feeling motivated to pray.
Yes.
There's times of consolation and desolation. So it ebbs and flows, and sometimes you're busy. So like by having human virtue in fitness and exercise and diet, then that has also led you to be like, oh, because I can do it here, I can do it also in my prayer life, and like make sure that that's.
I wouldn't say that it was articulated that way. It's more of like, I got that down, and then I was like, okay, now I want to do X, and now I have tools to be able to do X. I just apply the same tools I did to get like into a fitness routine. I now apply those rules or those tools to this other thing too.
Yep. And I feel like you've also done that even in just like household chores and being more active in that as well.
Yeah. Well, and again, this is where like I think it's a tool if you are like me, man or woman, like if you're like me, this is a tool that I think you need to implement. Like I have not found a better tool than this. Like our son right before bed, he said, what did he say? How did he word it to you?
He's like, I'm feeling mad, or I'm feeling angry, but I don't know who I'm angry at or why.
And he's like, do you know why I'm angry, Mommy?
Yeah. And he's like, do you know why I'm angry? No, buddy, I think you're just not feeling happy. So you are feeling the opposite now.
And then he's asked me, do you know why I'm feeling angry? I was like, sometimes, and I said, and as is completely honest, like I said, sometimes I just feel angry and I don't know why. And I was like, and sometimes I feel sad and I don't know why. And then he's like, yeah, sometimes I feel sad and I'm supposed to be happy. I was like, yep, I know what that's like. And I said, you know what I learned to do? He's like, what? I was like, I learned to not care about how I'm feeling. I said, when I'm happy and I almost know I'm supposed to be happy, then I'm like, all right, this is great. But if I feel one of the opposite things that I should be feeling, I just kind of keep going. And I don't let that dictate what I end up doing. And he's like, okay. And that's something I had to learn. And I learned it through athletics to get to that point, because before, when we first had our first few kids, like a lot of how I was doing depended on how I was feeling, and my emotions were kind of all over the place, depending on like what stimulus came in and what, what the weather was, how my asthma was, and
how work was,
right.
how did the baby sleep? How was our relationship? Were we arguing, or were we in a good spot, or what? Yeah.
So I think, so I can see how there's a lot of men out there who felt like they were kind of out in nowhere, like spinning out and with nowhere to go. They found athletics, and they found that as a path to get them to be able to strive for the holiness that they desired, and feel like all men need this. And I know that not all men need this, because I have friends who have said to me before, they can go on runs every morning. I hate running. It's an active choice to have to run. They can go on runs every morning and push themselves. They can run 3, 4, 5 miles, push themselves really hard, but it's not hard for them to do it. Like, it's not comfortable, but it's not the active, like, I hate doing this. Like, I wake up in the morning, babe, and I am so angry at myself. And I'm like, I don't want to do this. You're an idiot. Like, there's so much negative
self-talk
garbage that I'm just like, why are you doing this? And then I even say to you, like, I trick myself. I'm like, all right, well, tomorrow I'm going to sleep in. I'm not going to do this tomorrow. Today I have to do, I'm already up, but I'm not going to do it tomorrow. Yeah. Like all this.
And then you repeat that every morning.
Day. But like, I have to do these things to convince myself to get up.
Yeah.
But this other friend that I was talking to, like, he doesn't do any of that. He just gets up and it's like nothing.
Yes.
So like he
like wants to do it. Yeah, it's like leisure and pleasurable for him.
He's like, I need this to clear my mind. Like, there's a lot of similar like benefits that we get from it, but like it's not the same. Like, there's not the same building that needs to happen in order to get to this point. Yeah. And I would then argue that the virtue that I have to build to do it is not the same degree that he has to. So like for him, it's not the same kind of tool. For him, it might be like, you need to go get up early and read a book. Yeah. Right. You may have to do something completely different outside your comfort zone. Whereas like this is completely outside my comfort zone. Yeah. And I just think that's what, so like when you start thinking about like summer's coming and I want to look a certain way, like, and and I do this because like, no, this is going to help me be holier and a better mom and a better, like in grow in virtue. Like maybe not. And I think it's important for us to not start painting with broad strokes of saying like everyone needs to start embracing this.
Sure. But I do think that I really think though that there's some level of like well-being, like wellness that is involved in being aware of what you're eating, like your intake, and then also your ability with your body. Like, I think that we've been entrusted to care for our bodies well. So I think also kind of like you're talking about the pendulum swinging, right? There's this prideful side of like, it's about how I look and how much I can achieve with my body. I have these stats, or I have like, I can lift this much. This is my PR. I fit in this size, or
personal record.
Thank you. So I have, there's that one side of the pendulum where that like swings into pride, and it's all about you, and it's all about the external, and like pride, obviously it lacks virtue and humility, but then there's also the other side of the pendulum of this like like this body positivity that like allows for any sort of any sort of way of treating your body, right? And that can lead to vices of gluttony or laziness or sloth. Thank you. So neither is helping your holiness, right? And the Lord has entrusted us with a body and has gifted us a body, and it is important to like take care of that.
Well, see, so. And this is interesting pushback. This is where the conversation gets really nerdy, and I like it, but you push back, you're like, that's stupid. But so like, I would say that you said neither of those contribute to your holiness. And then I would argue that nothing that we do in terms of our physical development contributes to our holiness. There's quotes up here, because I think that building again, I think anything that we build for our physical self is tools that build virtue that can help us be able to like be more free so that we can strive for holiness. But like, it's not a thing that like you doing this and taking care of your body and eating the right things and doing the exercises, like that has nothing to do with our holiness.
Talking about summer bods and the need to grow in virtue. That is to become family. If you want to hear the rest of the conversation or things you might have missed, check us out, Podcast Central at EWTN.com/podcast, and subscribe wherever you like to stream so you can catch up on previous episodes. I am Ace McKay. When Catholics Coast to Coast returns, we're joining the messy family, as some may question how a celibate man can actually have wisdoms for husbands and wives. But Father Mike Schmitz, he is sharing how to love our children who have fallen away from the church, as we get into our continued segment with Catholics Coast to Coast coming up next.
The destination for great Catholic audio programming is EWTN Podcast Central, featuring the best of EWTN radio, as well as faith-filled podcasts from our friends and affiliates across the nation, all in one place, all free. If it's central to the faith, you can find it on EWTN Podcast Central. It's like podcast heaven. Visit EWTN.com/radio/podcast today.
Welcome to the podcast. We're so glad that you joined us today. And we really do have a very, very special treat, something that we are really excited to share with all of you.
Someone who we're really excited to share with you.
Yeah. But before we get into today's topic, we are in the midst of our twice a year fundraising campaign. This podcast, the ministry that it birthed, is all funded by listeners, 100% funded by listeners. listeners. There's Alicia and I, and we have 4 or 5, or actually 6 other people almost now that work for us in a part-time basis to serve upwards of 50,000 families every single month through the Messy Family Project. That is all possible because somebody said, I like what they're doing. I'm so glad somebody is dedicated to thinking about how can I help improve marriage? How can I help Catholic families? How can I make a difference? And so we're inviting you to be a difference maker, to have an impact through the Messy Family Project by being a donor.
And all of your donations, what they do is that they help us to develop more content, to develop new courses, to develop free things, videos, improve our website. I mean, there's so many things. We have lots of plans. We have lots of things that we want to do that are in the works, but we really do need the funds to do it. So we can reach not just the people who are reaching now, which is basically by word of mouth. I mean, that's how we've gotten to where we are today, but we want to reach even more people through ads and targeted placements in Google and YouTube and all of that. So we really want to spread the word far and wide that Catholic family life is possible. And we want to encourage Catholic families to do everything that they can do to love their spouse and to love their kids.
And if you're on our email list, you probably have gotten some emails from us. And we talk about the importance of making sure that married couples and that parents don't ever feel like they're alone, right? So many of us feel like we're on our own. And one of our goals at the Messy Family Project is to make sure parents never feel alone in the very noble and sometimes challenging and very challenging work of leading our families in this crazy and mixed up world. And so your donation by becoming hopefully a monthly supporter would be so important to us, because when you make an investment in us, particularly if you were able to be a monthly patron, be joining our parenting team, maybe for $25 a month. We have some fun gifts for you, like this Yeti. We get his and her Yetis if you're interested. We also have a summer family fun kit. But your support gives us the ability to then say, how are we going to use these resources to reach more families, to serve more families, to have a bigger impact in growing and enhancing the way that we fulfill our mission.
And while we're doing this donor drive, any donation gets a free copy of our family retreat book. That's right. And it's an instant download that you can get with lots of ideas for ways that you can do a retreat with your family this summer, because we want to support you as you are supporting us.
Yeah. So visit messyfamilyproject.org. Maybe you can hit pause right now and go to Messy Family Project and click the give button. And we'd love to have you join us as a monthly donor or just a one-time donor.
Yep.
Okay. So we have been trying to work on this conversation, this interview for months now. He's got a lot of things going on.
Well, we met Father Mike Schmitz when we were on the Good News Cruise together, and we talked about that at the beginning of the interview. So I have to get into that. And at that time, we asked him, "Hey, will you come on, to be on our podcast with us?" And so we finally were able to make it happen. Yeah. And it's a great conversation. It was worth the wait, I think.
You will laugh and you will cry. At least we did throughout the interview, and it was really a beautiful time. So sit back, take a listen of our conversation with Father Mike Schmitz. Father Mike, thank you so much for joining us to talk to us today, to our listeners, the young parents who are in the thick of the battle raising kids. But we're so glad that you're here with us.
Well, I'm grateful to be here as well. And also really, really, it's been this conversation has been a long time coming.
Yes. True story.
You're so sweet. we were really blessed by meeting you on the Good News Cruise, and also I have to be really, your talk on marriage on that cruise was just really impactful.
Oh, thank you.
And it was just fun being with you. And Lauren, shout out to Lauren for just hanging out with us and getting this all set up as well. She's great.
That was kind of an interesting situation for me. It'll be different this year because I'll be there the whole time. But this last time I was I had to jump on late, and then it was just kind of, I felt actually pretty discombobulated that whole week, or the whole days, how many days it was that I was there. And so it'll be good. It'll be even gooder news cruise in 2025.
And shout out to Corporate Travel. They do a great job. We loved being on there. If anyone is considering it, the Good News Cruise, Father Mike will be there again. It's great event, great experience, great renewal. So, Father, as I mentioned, our listeners are parents with kids in the home. They're trying to raise their families to be strong Catholics, strong Christians. And I think your story, I think that what we've seen and what we've heard from you can really be inspiration. So maybe let's start, instead of from Bible in the year, or my track is Bible in 3 or 4 years.
Yeah,
just so you know, that's my pace.
I just started day 78 today. So we are well into 2024.
Yes.
But I think a lot of our parents are thinking, gosh, what did Father Mike's parents do? What did they do? Yeah. And, and I think that I love hearing priests kind of like background, because you weren't born a priest, right? You didn't you didn't wear black and a collar when you were 5, I'm assuming.
No, just black with a bunch of hair on my eyes.
There you go.
More of a surfer dude, or what?
Yeah.
Skater
so could you just tell us a little bit?
Not really. No, I was
just a little bit about yourself, how you grew up, family, all of that.
Absolutely. So I grew up, I had my mom and my dad together. My mom just passed away about 1.5 years ago, but they were married for about 55-ish. I don't know. So they were married for a long time, which is a huge blessing.
Praise God. That's awesome.
And then I have 6, there's 6 of us kids. So there's my mom and dad. My dad was an orthopedic surgeon. My mom was a nurse. And she helped him through medical school and whatnot. And then when the first child came along, they tried to balance it out. And then at some point, my mom started staying at home when my dad started his practice. And so 3 boys, 3 girls. Of the kids, I'm in the middle. And so if you think of it, I always like this image, and no one likes this image, but I like this image. So it was girl, and then boy, then me, the other boy, then girl, boy. So right in there. I think that makes sense, right? 3 girls, 3 boys. And I'm the middle boy. So I am the middle child, because I'm the middle of the middle. So my older brother is also middle, but he had to be the first boy. So all those kind of dynamics. Yes. And I have this theory. I have a theory that middle children, are the most well-adjusted. That's my theory.
Okay.
Because
he's on the younger end and I'm on the older end.
Because the olders, so you get nurtured from the older. And then you have to then pass it on to the nurturing. You have to do the nurturing, or you get tortured and you get to pass on the torture. Either way, I think in the middle, you get balance.
I like that. And I think there's some wisdom, because we have 10 kids because the first 5 were our test kids. And now we figured out what we're doing. So you get a lot of a guinea pig situation in the first couple kids.
That's really funny you say that, because there is I did a wedding a year ago. I think it was a year ago in a week or something. And I know the bride and groom, obviously, well, not obviously, I know the bride and groom, they're our former students, and they're both from a town in our diocese. So I kind of have some extended family connections with them. And because they are from a town I worked next to anyways. So after the wedding, it's just the mother of the bride and me. And in the church, because everyone's gone off to the reception, and I'm just cleaning some things up, and she's cleaning some things up. And she says, and she had a group of, she had 7 kids. I think it was the first 4 and then the last 3. And the bride was the last of the last. But she said, kid 1 through 4, they were the best, ideal, and then child 5 and 6 have had a lot of issues, just kind of a lot of personal issues, a lot of substance issues, a lot of maybe some prison type issues and things like this. Wow. And she said, if you would have caught me after 4 kids, if I would have stopped at 4, if we only had 4, I would have had so much advice for parents on how to raise great kids. Like I would have been the fount of wisdom for everyone. She said, I think God gave me the others because no. We made him. Here's God. Like I made him easy for you. That kind of situation. Yeah. So you did the test case the first 5, and then you got to be good at it.
Yes. Sometimes that's what I always say about my first 2, our oldest 2, boy and a girl. I always say I would have been like, look at me, I'm this perfect parent, Then God gave us our 3rd child, and I was like, yep, nope, it's not me. It's this and
then
is
4
mulligan,
and 5 and every So in your family, well,
I was going to go back to this. I think that here's some of the dynamic. I know Mike, I'll answer your question in a second.
That's okay.
But I think it'll be probably better than what I'm going to say. But I have another theory about the middle child, and that is that middle children either use something in their middleness either causes them to really fight to stand out or really desire to hide. And I found this. So whenever I talk to middle children, I say, what do you guys think about this theory that some middle children like really, really want to be the star, really get attention, and others they like their position in the middle because they like to hide that way. And a lot of them have resonated with that because, see, I'm a hider. I like to be hidden. So in the big family of 8, which
I can get that.
It was, well, we know it's true. It's really like on the cruise, like I head down, just kind of like walk into a room. True. I don't actually want, I don't want
to like people.
I don't, well, that's part of it. But more of like introvert, kind of that sense of, because I remember going into, we go to Perkins or whatever, family restaurant as a kid. And I'm like, gosh, we can't go anywhere without making a scene because eight of us.
I get that.
You have even more. Someone's always having a bad day. Like at some point, someone's always melting down, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like why can't we just like go into church? Why can't we just go to anywhere where we don't get all this attention? And I just would want to hide because of that.
Yeah.
Our child number 4 felt like that a lot.
Yeah. So I'm number 4. So maybe it's number. Maybe it's the number. You were going to say something.
No, I was just thinking about there is something that comes with family that naturally affects us, and in the birth order, that's part of it, right? But it's also like, what's the dynamic between the siblings and what's the parents? Because there's a lot that goes into how we are formed when we're under our parents' roof, and how their marriage was, how your siblings tortured you, or or whatever, and all of that helps form you. And I look back, and my parents got divorced, right? And I remember getting tortured quite a bit as a kid, but I also learned how to adapt and become a little funny to make sure I didn't get always picked on.
Michael is one of 6 as well.
Yeah.
Right. And anyway, but I think of all of those things, and I look back, and there are things that, boy, I wish that didn't happen. But I also know that even those bad things, they help form me. They help shape me.
Yeah.
And so it's like family life is, and why we call ourselves the messy family is that we're all a little messy. We all have stuff if we're honest, right? But that does influence us and impact the way we approach life.
Oh yeah.
And so just thinking back on your own family to where you are right now, what are some either memories or moments that you would look back and be like, yeah, this is actually pretty important or pretty formative for me in my life growing up.
I'm glad you said that because I think there can be a lot of pressure that parents put on themselves that we have to be perfect, that I have to do this. I have to do this exactly the right way. And they miss out on the joy of like, no, this is actually just life. This is the joy of living and raising. You have these kids for however long you have them. And we don't know how long that'll be. And that sense of like, but if I have to create the perfect environment and be the perfect mom or the perfect dad, then it's impossible because perfection doesn't exist in human beings. Right. So I really appreciate you said that. There is a great book by Colleen Carroll Campbell called The Heart of Perfection. And it was, I think the subtitle is called How I Gave Up My View of Perfection for God's or something, or the saints helped me give up my view of perfection for God's. So it's Colleen Carroll Campbell, The Heart of Perfection. And I was listening. I do a lot of listening to books these days because I'm so I sit down to read. I'm like, oh, I'm asleep. If I listen to an audiobook, I'm driving, I can't fall asleep. And that, so I'm listening to this book, and I've listened to it probably 24 times. I mean, I've really gotten a lot out of it. I've really appreciated it. And at one point, I sent it to my little sister. I was like, here's a little gift. I think you might like this, because I was thinking of her a lot in this. She's a mom of 6, and I think she puts a lot of pressure on herself at times. And at one point, she's listening to it in the car with her oldest daughter, who maybe at the time was 12 or 13. And her daughter looks and says, "Mom, are you playing this for me?" and her mom's like, "No, honey, I'm playing this for me."
Yeah.
Sometimes that's the big thing. Like the perfectionism just can get in there, and it just steals life away, steals joy away. So, so true. Here's the messiness. I'm trying to think of so as I said, my dad was an orthopedic surgeon, and there's 6 of us. And so they moved up to basically what they call northern Minnesota, right when I was born. So I was born in Chicago, Illinois, Oak Park. And my dad was finishing up residency at Cook County General Hospital in Chicago. And so there's 4 kids, move up north because we were from Minnesota, but not from that area. And so he set up his practice. He was the only orthopedic surgeon in town for 4 years, I think. So he was very busy.
Wow.
Not only was he starting a company, I think about this now. I talk to him. I'm like, Dad, you're an entrepreneur. He's like, well, I guess, whatever. But I remember him telling me, he said, I had to buy filing cabinets. Where do you buy filing cabinets? I don't know. Oh, we need a stapler, that he's starting his own business, not just being a doctor. Yeah. And with the 4 kids and with my mom. And so my dad was gone a lot. And even after he got a partner, it was like, splitting call and all this kind of thing. And so a big thing was my dad was gone a lot, but he and my mom had kind of come up with I remember my mom saying this maybe 5 years ago. She said, because one of my older sisters is also an orthopedic surgeon. And, and the way she and her husband do it is different than how my mom and dad did it. And she said, yeah, your dad and I, we decided that he would take care of the patients and I'd take care of the family. And we just split it up that way. Like, nope, you take care of your patients. They need you. And I'll take care of the kids because they need me. And she's like, I'm not sure if that was the right way, but that's what we decided. And so it was one of those interesting things. And she kind of even was able to kind of let it go. Like, I don't know if that was the best way, but that's what we decided to do. That's what we did. And there was something so good about that because you have to make a decision. And so I remember my dad being gone a lot, but also I do remember that when he was home, he was very present. What I mean by that is when he was home, it was almost annoying in the sense that he would be like, okay, I'm here. You guys, let's do something. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? Because he's very much a doer. And I'm like, I want to do nothing. Like I'm kind of a lazy person. I'm like, what do you want to do? This, what I'm doing, watching TV. And so dad would come home. And if it was like, okay, he's like, I'm going for a run. You want to ride your bike with me? Like, no, get on your bike. Come with me. He'd make us go with him.
Good for him. I love it.
Yeah,
I love
completely. He forced us to spend time with him. Which is good, which you actually kind of needed to do because his schedule was so irregular that we didn't know when he would be there, when he wouldn't be there. And when he was there, it was like, okay, now it's time to get projects done. You guys come out with me. We're going to do projects. Yeah. So that was it was a good and bad kind of thing because it meant like, okay, dad's home, it's time to work, which is like, you don't want to have that Pavlovian response to someone's presence. Or like, but at the same time, that same time, I look at it and say, I can look back. And I think that there are so many lessons. My mom just gave and gave. My dad just gave and gave. And that was really good. There was something also, I shared this story at my mom's funeral and a couple times since, but my mom, for her part, so she would, she took her role as being a stay-at-home mom very, very seriously. In fact, my mom had always wanted to be a missionary. I think they call it the Good Ship Hope, and then they might call them mercy ships now. But it is it's a group of people who are medical missionaries. So that's why she wanted to be a nurse, and they go all over the world and they do medical missions, and that's what she always wanted to do. But then she had us, and so she did not. Yeah. She became a different mission.
Missionary to the
family. And so it was one of those situations where, I have referenced her before saying like she wanted to be a missionary. She wanted to do what Jesus said. When I was hungry, you fed me. When I was naked, you clothed me. When I was thirsty, you gave me drink. When I was ill, you took care of me. And it wasn't with strangers. She just did it with her family. And that was like, that was her mission field. And she also, that expanded into the community a little bit too, but we were her primary mission. Yeah. That was, so one of the things she did is she'd make us every meal, basically. So breakfast, she'd get up early. There was a little fireplace in the kitchen and she made a fire in the winter, in Minnesota, make a fire in there and get us up and make breakfast. And if she was sick or was feeling so horrible, she would still get out the bowls and the spoons and the cereal and the milk and just like put it out there. Like you guys assemble your own. And she would do this every breakfast, every evening, if she'd make our lunches. But so this was so consistent that I remember like maybe junior high, standing next to my locker, and the kid next to me was like, all I had was a Pop-Tart this morning. And I was like, oh, but I kind of, my naivete, I was like, well, did your mom make breakfast for you? And he's like, my mom never makes breakfast for me. She hasn't made breakfast for me. And I can't remember when. And I was like, oh my gosh, doesn't she love you? Because that was that was my like association was like that sense of like, that's what she does. And then later on, so years passed, this is my whole life, right? I become ordained, I get ordained, and I'm going to people's homes and they're like, oh, hey, Father, I hope you don't mind us serving you X, Y, Z, whatever the food is. And internally I'm like, oh, okay, this is not good. This is not good. And then I'd be eating food. I'm like, oh, this is really good. And here's the reality is that eating at other people's homes, I discovered how good food could actually taste. Because I didn't realize that even though my mom made every meal. Like she's a bad cook. And like, and genuinely, and so for years, and at one point, maybe 10 years ago, I'm not sure exactly how long ago, I was talking with my sisters and we're like, mom's not that great of a cook. I mean, there's some things she makes that were like, oh, this is her specialty kind of thing. And she likes it.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, they both said, oh yeah, mom hates cooking. I was like, what? And she's like, she hates cooking. And so here's this thing that was just my takeaway was my whole life. My mom would make every meal for us. She was not good at it. She hated it. And I had no idea. She hated doing it. And it was just that sense of like, even now, I just think how amazing of just, you don't, because here goes back to the perfectionism thing is, well, I have to be a perfect parent. Like, no, actually, sometimes you just have to be there. And
you just got to show up.
That's the thing is and so my takeaway from that, from my mom's whole life was like, sometimes love is just showing up.
Yeah.
And like, that's it. And so, so my dad, when he could, he would show up, he made an effort. My mom would, we were all in swimming. And that's another thing. Here's my mom. My mom put us all on the swim team when we were about 6 or 7. Mm-hmm. So we were the 8 and unders, on the swim team though, not in swim. We were in swim lessons earlier, but she made us all be on the swim team. And the reason why is because my mom could
strong swimmers.
My mom could swim, but she was afraid of the water. And so she never wanted her kids to be afraid of what she was afraid of. Yeah. And so that sense of like, even as a parent, like that sense of, and she made us do it. Like I remember wanting to quit. No, you cannot quit. Like there are some rules that we had in our family. If you signed up for it, you cannot quit. And you don't have to start again next year, but you can't quit in the middle of the season, that kind of situation. And it was, because it was something that scared her. And I don't want my kids to ever be afraid of something that I'm afraid of. And so she took that role of a parent of like, the goal is not to make the world safe. The goal is to make you strong so you can face the world. Like she took that really, really seriously. And again, she didn't have to do it as a perfect person. And she didn't have to do it perfectly either. And there's something that's in there that's just like, again, so going back to the swimming thing is, so it rebounded on her because if all of your kids are in the swim team, there's all day swim meets on the weekends.
Oh yeah.
And man, how I could never, if as a parent, like if I was ever a parent, could, as an uncle, my nieces and nephews are on swimming. And I'm like, oh my gosh, call me when their event's going to happen and I'll show up like 10 minutes ahead because it is just the most grueling, boring, horrible moment of your entire life. And she did it. She just showed up. And both my parents were like that.
Yeah. Well, you know what I'm hearing and what I think is so important for parents to understand is that amidst the messiness, and like your mom's response, just kind of going back, like, I don't know if this is the right thing, but this is what we did but they did it intentionally. I think where parents get tripped up sometimes is that life is messy and they just kind of like never stop to think about anything. They just kind of like get bowled along in the hurricane of family life without stopping for a minute and being like, okay, wait a second. What's the plan? Let's just decide what the plan is and not worrying about that plan being perfect because God doesn't ask us to see into the future, but at least to do what we can with the knowledge you have at that moment, do what you think is best. We say that to parents all the time. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I can give you some principles. I can tell you got to talk to your spouse, right? Yeah. I can tell you got to pray about it. But no, you got to trust that when you ask the Lord for wisdom, he's going to show up. He's going to show up and he's going to help you. And don't be afraid, So I love that they were just like, hey, we're just going to be intentional about this and just let it go without regrets, Yeah.
And I think that there's such a thing too, is being knowing that you can always course correct. Like you can always say, this is what we agreed on. How is it going? And probably we should should actually say, this is what we agreed to. How is it going? Is this still okay for you? Because I mean, again, there were some times when, so I mentioned how, so my mom and dad got married on December 16th. And so in the middle of Advent, in the middle of winter, they were going to get married in the fall. And my dad said, no problem, but just know that if we get married in the fall, there are going to be some anniversaries that I'm not there. because of opening hunting. And so
he's a true Minnesotan.
Yeah, he was really
You're
serious.
not kidding. He's from
about that.
Minnesota. Okay,
really,
got it.
And it was one of the situations where I'm like, are you serious? And he's like, yeah, I mean,
Parenting isn't always doing everything perfectly. It's about showing up over and over again. Great insights from Father Mike Schmitz on Messy Family Podcast this week. If you want the rest of the conversation, you can always check us out, EWTN.com/podcast, or subscribe wherever you like to listen, and that way you don't miss future episodes. I'm Ace McKay. Going to head back out to the pool for the rest of the weekend, but enjoy the rest of your Independence Day holiday weekend, and we'll do it again next week. Remember to let God define who you are, and I'll see you again on Catholics Coast to Coast.